Good evening, everybody. This is DM from That Wrestling Show, off of the heels of WrestleMania 28. Was this a good show? Was this a bad show? Was it mediocre? Did it live up to the hype? Well, as always, DM is going to be a straight shooter. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm not going to allow my personal feelings get involved. I'm not going to allow favoritism to take effect. I'm going to do this as an analyst. That's the only way to do it, because if I let my personal feelings get inside, I will tear this pay-per-view to shit. First match on the card was the World Heavyweight Championship between Sheamus and Daniel Bryan. The fans were pretty jacked up for this. The match rings, ding, 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 bro kick, 1, 2, 3, and your new winner of the title is Sheamus. I'm going to be honest. For shock value, this gets a 10 out of 10. For bullshit factor, this gets 10 out of 10. Obviously, the WWE brass doesn't have any faith in the Royal Rumble winner. The WWE brass had no faith in Daniel Bryan whatsoever. The Money in the Bank curse continues, that whoever wins Money in the Bank will have a shit loss and shit title reign. This match, for my money, was horrible. And I'm not the only one that agrees to that. Rewatch the tape. The fans were equally pissed. Which is kind of a shame, because they put so much... I don't want to say they built this match up, but, you figured this match would at least go 10 minutes. No, they didn't even have the balls to allow these guys to wrestle. And these are two legitimate wrestlers, but apparently Vince doesn't know what wrestling is anymore, so just get this match over and done with and move it on. I mean, they could have cut time from another match, but not the world title. I mean, why don't you just open up our asses and just shit at them while you're at it? It's absolutely horrible. I thought this was... I have no problem with Sheamus winning the title. Don't get me wrong. I have no problem with Sheamus winning the title. That's not what I'm upset about. It's the fact that you have a world title match and it's over in 18 seconds. You don't do that. You just don't do that. If you're not going to have the match, then don't do it. Just don't do it. Next match on the card was Randy Orton going up against Kane, and I was scared to death about this because Orton always wins in the later half. The match was okay. It wasn't the best match that we've seen. I figured that they'd wrestle a little bit better. This pace was a little slower than what I'm used to, especially with Randy Orton and Kane. In the end, Kane wins with a super chokeslam from the top rope and gets the win. I am elated at this point. Kane gets the win. Orton loses, which kind of makes you blink a little bit. Orton getting the loss, that just means he'll win at Extreme Rules. I got no problem with this. The match could have been better. It was alright. No problems with it. We move on to the next. The next match on the card, which I was actually looking forward to, was Cody Rhodes defending the Intercontinental title against The Big Show. And this match I had high expectations for, and it was okay. It wasn't fantastic. It's kind of hard to see Big Show in a 5-star classic, but I figure with Cody Rhodes, he might pull something out, and it was alright. It was okay. Cody Rhodes loses, Big Show gets the win. I was a little disappointed because I wanted Cody Rhodes to retain, but, it's been a long time coming for Big Show. I got no problem with the match. It was a little slow for my liking, but I got no problem with the result. I have no real problems with the match. I think it went over pretty well. A little bit quick. I would have liked it if it went on a little bit longer, but that's just the way it goes. The next match on the card, it was the end of an era Hell in a Cell match. And as I said on Beyond the Mat, and as I probably said also on That Wrestling Show episode 26, that this was going to be a storytelling match. It wasn't going to be brutal. It wasn't going to be gruesome. It wasn't going to be, a Mick Foley off the cage, Shawn Michaels into the cell kind of thing. It wasn't going to be anything of that nature. But this match exceeded my expectations. I had a massive fear that Taker was going to move very slow, and he didn't. I had a fear that Triple H would be dominating the whole match. He didn't. I had a big fear that HBK would get involved in the match, but you know, it wasn't bad. You know, the way that they told this story, because it was a story match, this was actually really good. Shawn Michaels was the storyteller of this match. Triple H got the shit kicked out of him. Undertaker got the shit kicked out of him. I had no problem with him cutting his hair. I actually thought it was kind of a nice change. It was nice. Shawn Michaels and Triple H hitting both their finishers, mainly because Shawn's a dick, but, you know, that's just how it is. Playing the role of, he's finished, end the match. This was great. This was absolutely great. It wasn't the best wrestling match. I'm going to say that right now. Wrestling-wise, Hell in a Cell-wise, this was not the best I've seen. But when it comes to story and when it comes to drama and emotion, for me, this got it. This was the main event of WrestleMania. And I'm not going to say I don't regret saying that, but the main event of WrestleMania, again, is with three guys in their 40s. Superb match, superb story, absolutely perfect. Taker, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels walking out together. They hug. Absolutely just magnificent. Magnificent. The next bout, and sorry if I'm doing this out of order, I'm trying to do it from memory, was the Divas match, which would feature Maria Menounos and Kelly Kelly against Beth Phoenix and Eve Torres. The match was okay. You know, I've seen worse, I've seen better, but, you know, it was okay. It wasn't bad. I think Kelly Kelly has been improving. Eve is doing the best she could. Beth Phoenix loses to Maria Menounos. I hate it when celebrities win. I absolutely hate when a celebrity wins over a professional wrestler. It's like someone off the street getting into a boxing ring and, you know, beating up a professional boxer. You know, you can only do that story so many times. They've done this every goddamn WrestleMania. I'm so sick of it. Celebrities do not belong or shouldn't even be near a wrestling ring. As a guest host, as a commentator, sure, but in the ring, it doesn't make any sense. It's like an actor playing a role in a ring. To me, it's disrespectful. The match was okay, but I was not happy with the result at all. It's now time for the next match on the card, which was Team Teddy versus Team Johnny. And, well, I'll be honest, the match was okay. It wasn't fantastic, but it was okay. Team Laurinaitis gets the win. Surprise, surprise. He's now the general manager of both companies. Zack Ryder is now labeled as the biggest tool in the fucking business because Eve Torres, of course, you know, turned on Ryder and cost him the match and blah, blah, blah. The match was okay. Again, it was okay. I had no problem with the result. Just, I don't think that many guys needed to be involved. I don't even think Khali really did much in the match itself. It was okay, but it was not a highlight of the show. The next match on the card was, now we're getting down to the main event, so you brace yourselves. CM Punk versus Chris Jericho for the WWE title. Laurinaitis saying prior to the match that if Punk gets himself disqualified, he will lose the title. This was another storytelling match, but this was also a wrestling match. Jericho throwing in, say hi to your father for me, I love your sister, you know, just being a total heel, being a total dick. For a 9 or so minute match, this was alright. I'm not going to be one of those guys that says that this was the best match on the card, because it wasn't. I'm sorry, I'm a big Jericho fan, I'm a big CM Punk fan. This could have been a lot better, but I don't think they had the flair. I don't think they had the oomph that we were looking for. The match was good. I will give it that. The match was pretty good for what it was worth. A lot of wrestling was involved, but I don't think it lived up as much as I had expected. It may also have been because part of the crowd. But, you know, the match was okay. I was right that Jericho was going to lose via submission. No problem with CM Punk winning because it kind of makes sense that the guy that's going to show up on Raw, you know, tomorrow, is going to win his match as opposed to a guy that's only signed a contract for a limited amount of time. An okay match. It was pretty good. It was probably the best wrestling match of the card, but it wasn't the best match on the card. I will give it that. Now it's time for the main event with John Cena and The Rock. They both get played out. I'm sorry, the fans didn't give a shit either way. John Cena and The Rock were in the ring. The crowd was into it, and 2 minutes later, the crowd died. Now, I know there are some people that say, you know, it's the arena, it's the stadium, all the sound goes up. But I was watching the crowd. They were sitting down. A lot. And there are some people that say it shouldn't be the crowd's job to be entertained. It's the wrestlers that need to entertain the crowd. But when you have a spectacle like John Cena and The Rock in the ring, I'm sorry, you need to be going fucking bananas. If you can't be loud and be appreciative of what's going on in the ring, you do not deserve to be in a wrestling capacity. That is my personal opinion, and that's the way I feel. My thoughts on the match. I didn't like it. I did not like this match at all. It was very slow. It was very methodical. And I don't have a problem with a slow, methodical match, but the way they built this feud, you figure that these two would beat the shit out of each other. You expected drop kicks and spine busters and DDTs and pile drivers and shit flying over the goddamn roof and body slams and brain buster. You expected this to be a big time match. You expected this to just explode. And it did not explode. Cena was very careful when handling The Rock. The Rock was very, very careful in his moves. And I know he's got to be careful because of his movie career. But at the same time, if you have to be careful when wrestling a match where you want to beat the shit out of someone, you can't tiptoe through it like you're walking on eggshells. I'm sorry, for me, I did not like this match at all. I did not care for it. I was bored out of my mind. When Rock and Hogan had their match, they were all over the place. When Hogan and Warrior had their match, they were all over the place. And those are just two references, but they also had slow matches, but at least they moved. At least there was interaction. These two did not gel very well in the ring. Maybe it's just because I'm anti-Rock and I'm not very much pro-Cena. But for me, you figure that these guys would move around the ring. They would throw jabs at each other. I don't think it worked. I personally, for my money, this did not work. I didn't care for it. And I know I'm going to be blasted from, every person on YouTube that's saying you're a Cena mark and you're pissed off that The Rock won. That has nothing to do with it. The match, be honest, was not that good. I said in the chat room, we just saw a fantastic Hell in a Cell. Unless John Cena and The Rock pull off Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, because that is my grading scale when it comes to great matches, if you don't come close to Ric Flair or Ricky Steamboat, I'm sorry, you do not have a good match. This was on the level of Hercules versus the Ultimate Warrior. It was just that bad. And that's just being the brutal truth. And now we get to the end where The Rock wins. Again, I'm trying so hard not to let personal feelings get aside. There are two ways that they can go with this. The first way is, you have John Cena, who's beaten Triple H, who's beaten Batista, who beat Edge and Big Show, who's beaten Randy Orton, he's beaten Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. He's beaten all these guys at WrestleMania. But he can't beat a guy who hasn't been in the ring in 8 years. Right there is a problem. Cena is your cornerstone. He is your centerpiece. He is your flag waver. And you take that away from him by having The Rock beat him. And The Rock isn't even going to be wrestling full-time or part-time or any time. Not the best business decision. Now, I understand they were in his hometown. I understand they were in Miami and they had to do everything for The Rock. I get that. Business-wise, it makes perfect sense. I get that. But now you could kind of see where Cena's going to want a rematch, and they're going to do it at WrestleMania 29, which kind of means that everyone that paid a ticket to see that once-in-a-lifetime match now get shat on because they're probably going to do it again. And I know there's going to be people that's saying, well, wait a second, you went to WrestleMania 26, you got to see Shawn Michaels and Taker. Well, doesn't that shit on what they did at 25? No, because once someone's career was on the line. And then you're going to have some people going, well, wait a minute, Taker and Triple H, well, they wrestled, and they wrestled again. Yeah, but this time it's a little different because they're in a fucking cell. Now, what are they going to do with Cena Rock as a rematch? Put a title on the line? It doesn't really matter. Someone's career is going to be over? It doesn't really matter. When you have someone that's part-time, that doesn't wrestle, and is not a part of your company, and only makes sporadic appearances, you really shouldn't allow that guy to do much. Maybe wrestle a couple matches here and there, but having him beat the Cornerstone? Oof. I commend WWE for pissing off the fans. I commend WWE for making the children cry. But at the same time, I scratch my head going, is this the route you really want to go? But overall, WrestleMania, was it the best WrestleMania? Hell no. Was it better than 27? Yes. But by a small margin. I'm going to go on record and say I didn't care for the set. I did not care for the presentation. I think everyone kind of wrestled in slow motion. I think the cameras were way off tonight. The camera crew, I don't know what their problem was, but the angles were off. During some of the entrances, they focused more on the crowd rather than what's going on coming down the aisle. It was an okay Mania. It's been a better Mania than we've seen in the last couple of years, but I am not going to rate it that high. Out of 10 stars, I'll give it 6, and I'm being brutally honest. This is DM. I'm a straight shooter. I'm an analyst. I'm doing it wrestling-wise. I'm doing it crowd-wise. I'm doing it aesthetic-wise. And I'm doing it overall. And, if you enjoyed the show, that's great. I want to hear positive reviews. I want to hear people say that this was the greatest WrestleMania ever. I want to know that people enjoyed this show. But I know that there's a lot of people that were pissed off right at the start because of Daniel Bryan. And if you don't believe me, rewatch the match. The fans were pissed, and it has nothing to do with who won the match. It's how he won. And that'll do it all for this review of WrestleMania 28. I am DM saying thank you everyone who tuned into the chat room. We had a blast. WrestleMania 28 is over, and now we head into Extreme Rules, which is the next pay-per-view in Chicago. I am DM from That Wrestling Show saying until next time, I'll see you then.